Is everything we experience every day actually real? The vast flood of information pressing in from outside passes through the gates of our five senses, riding along the delicate flow of countless neurons, and is reduced to precise electrical signals. The instant these signals are decoded across the coordinates of four-dimensional spacetime, we finally call it reality. But if what we perceive as reality is in fact an illusion, a shadow cast by something more real, then what is the source, the hidden identity, that governs even day and night, front and back, life and death, and convinces us that this decoded information is real? If we trace that source upward, we arrive at a place before duality itself ever occurred. A place where inside and outside have not yet split, where stillness and vibration are still locked together as a single breath. A complete place where nothing has been divided yet. We cannot fully explain that reality through dualism, but we can try to approach it through the shadows it casts everywhere in this world. The entities that come closest to explaining that reality are, mathematically, 0 and 1, and, in visible form, the electron. Through these two, we will try to get a little closer to that reality. The computer's signal. True and false. On and off. We have only ever used 0 and 1 as symbols for calculation. But if we stop treating them as mere numbers and instead treat them as modes of being, something entirely different begins to appear. 0 is complete stillness, without form. 1 is the very first motion and vibration that burst out of it. You could call it the relationship between rest and motion, but there is no before or after between 0 and 1. Within the stillness of 0, the possibility of the vibration of 1 is already contained, and the motion of 1, in turn, cannot exist without the background of 0. If 0 is the inside, then 1 is simply the outside. The two move as a single body, like thread and needle, with the distinction between subject and object dissolved. The state in which 1 and 0 are locked together with zero distortion, we call completeness, and in numerical form, we write it as 10. This isn't a state trapped in a closed space. It is the state of infinity in a fully open space, where every possibility remains available. Let's first approach 0 and 1 mathematically. Mathematicians call it the most beautiful equation ever written, Euler's Formula. e to the power of I pi plus 1 equals 0, an identity that seems strange, and perhaps meaningless at first glance, yet it contains within it the relationship between 0 and 1. The imaginary unit is a device that seizes a force trying to expand infinitely and bends it, 90 degrees at a time, into rotation. The moment the generative force of 1, call it taiji, the primal motion, rides this rotation exactly half a turn, it produces, entirely on its own, its perfect opposite, -1. The instant that inverted force meets the original force again, the two opposing extremes cancel each other out completely, returning to 0, complete stillness, the vast womb from which everything came. The trembling of 1 calls 0 into being, and from the womb of 0, 1 bursts forth again. This cycle cannot exist without the rotation that only the imaginary unit makes possible. On this circle, though, there are a few more special positions besides 1 and -1. The point where the real part is exactly 1/2, and the point where it is exactly -1/2. Adding these 4 points to the original 1 and -1 divides the circle evenly into 6 pieces of 60 degrees each. Among these, the 2 points with real part -1/2 are even more special. Together with the original point at 1, these two divide the circle into exactly 3 equal parts. And if you represent these 3 points as vectors and add them all together, they cancel out completely, landing precisely on 0. This only happens when 3 points are spaced exactly 120 degrees apart, and it is the minimum combination needed to form a closed space. Nature already makes use of this arrangement. The three color charges carried by quarks are separated by exactly this same 120-degree interval, and only when all three come together do they cancel out into the whole, observable particle we perceive. Here, the number of twists becomes decisive. Take a strip of paper, twist it once, and join the ends, you get a Mobius strip. An ant walking along a Mobius strip can reach the far side without ever crossing an edge, because inside and outside are still not yet distinguished. It remains an open state. But the moment a second twist is added, completing two full twists, the path becomes a closed loop that returns to itself. Only with this return does the inside finally become sealed off from the outside, and a knot forms, one that traps energy within it. Exactly two twists, no more and no fewer, are required to turn openness into closure. A knot completed by two twists is no longer just an abstract idea floating in empty space. It now holds a stable position. To exist, in the end, is simply to occupy one's own place somewhere within this lattice we call space. But occupying a place doesn't mean standing perfectly still. This space that every existing thing fills together is not an empty vacuum. The moment something claims its place within it, it begins pushing and pulling against everything around it from every direction. Caught in this web of mutual influence, the particle that has taken shape as a knot in space has no way to remain motionless. It begins to spin, taking on a directional bias. This is spin, rotational motion carrying angular momentum. This rotation doesn't simply end as a clean spin in one fixed spot, like a top. If you watch a spinning top closely, its axis is never perfectly vertical. It wobbles faintly, tracing out its own small circle. That trembling is vibration itself. Because the very axis of rotation trembles as it spins, what looks like motion confined to a single point is, in reality, tracing a spiral path that slowly advances even as it circles. And here something fascinating happens. Rotation cannot be completed with only a single center point. Think of the moment you perceive something as three-dimensional. Close one eye, and the world flattens into something like a photograph. Depth disappears. It's only when your two eyes, each looking from a slightly different position at the same object, bring their two focal points together that you experience it as a solid object with volume. With only one focal point, it remains a flat plane. The same is true of existence in space. For a spinning, rotating knot to truly occupy space as a solid, three-dimensional body, a single center is not enough. A perfect circle is a flat shape with only one focal point. For the motion of rotation and vibration to actually seize space and generate volume, there must be two opposing focal points facing one another. Only in the moment those 2 points pull taut against each other does the flat circle gain a body and become a solid ellipsoid. For this reason, every existing thing that occupies space, spins, and vibrates is inevitably born as an ellipsoid with 2 focal points, what we might call yin and yang. This is the shape of the body that existence carries without exception. And every existing thing, taking this rotating, vibrating ellipsoid form, becomes bound to a property we call time. This tense tug-of-war, in which the 2 focal points pull toward and push away from each other, is never free. Contracting as it nears one focus and expanding as it moves toward the other, this oscillation itself consumes energy. And once energy has been spent, its trace can never be fully erased. Science calls this entropy, in plain terms, the total amount of disorder. Disorder only ever accumulates in the direction time flows. It never spontaneously reverses. On top of this, existence doesn't simply sit still, it keeps replicating itself, expanding its own body. This is a law of nature, and arguably the very first instinct of existence itself, like a fractal, the same small pattern repeating endlessly within a larger one. But this replication is never perfect. Each time it copies itself, the minute discrepancy between the two focal points is added in again, just slightly. Mathematics shows, with startling precision, exactly how this initially invisible error grows into a force capable of tearing an entire existence apart. The number is 4.669, known as the Feigenbaum constant. It shows that as one flow splits into two, then those two split into four, then four into eight, the interval between each successive split shrinks every single time by exactly this same factor. The first split required a great deal of force, the next required less, and the one after that, less still. As these intervals narrow faster and faster, snowballing, eventually a threshold is crossed and the system plunges into chaos, an unpredictable disorder. Order doesn't need some dramatic cause or catastrophic shock to collapse. It only needs a small, honest error, accumulating at a fixed, predictable rate. A seed grows and eventually withers, a star is born and eventually collapses, a human body wears away with the passing years. Every existing thing that has taken on a form walks the same road without exception, born, growing, drifting out of alignment, and finally scattering apart. It spends energy continuously to hold its two focal points in place, passes on that same minute error with every act of replication, and eventually arrives at the point where that error has grown beyond anything it can bear. And yet, in this universe, there is one thing that never has to walk this path from the very beginning: the electron. What makes the electron special is that it is, from the outset, a zero-dimensional point with no volume at all. With no body to split, it simply cannot split, and unlike an ellipsoid, its focus never divides into two. For a long time, scientists have tested from every possible angle whether the electron is truly, perfectly uniform. First, there was the experiment measuring the electric field the electron radiates in every direction. If the electron had even the slightest elongation in any direction, the field strength should have varied by direction, but no such bias appeared. Within the limits of measurement, it came out exactly zero. Then there was the Large Electron-Positron Collider, LEP. Even probing down to a scale so small that, if an atom were scaled up to the size of Earth, it wouldn't even amount to a single pebble, no internal structure of any kind emerged. The electron remains, still, a single point. Whether you measure its shape or probe as deep as physically possible into its interior, not a single trace of division ever appears in the electron. Since it is a point rather than an ellipsoid with two focal points, it simply cannot possess two foci in the first place. And yet, without volume, it carries angular momentum and behaves exactly as if it were a perfect circle with a single focal point. Just as 0 and 1 function as inseparable as thread and needle, or the two faces of a single coin, the electron, defined as this point-like thing, incapable of having a divided focus, behaves exactly like a perfect circle with one intact focal point. For this reason, until it is observed, the electron cannot be said to be anywhere, nor can it be said to be nowhere. It exists as an overlap of the states of wave and particle, unresolved into any single position. It remains, at this very moment, in that state just before something is decided, just before the split occurs. Everything else in this world begins forming two focal points the moment it splits, and tension and error accumulate until it eventually collapses. The electron never enters this chain at all. The very first link, the split itself, has simply never occurred. And so the second link, the third, the final collapse, none of them ever have anywhere to happen for the electron. It's not that the electron doesn't age. It's that it was never set up to age in the first place. Between the electron born 13.8 billion years ago, at the dawn of the universe, and the electron circling an atom inside your body right now, there is not a single wrinkle left by time, because for something that has never split, there is nowhere for time to leave its mark. The electron is, at this very moment, racing along at 300,000 kilometers per second, a speed we can barely even conceive of. But even the electron itself is only a shadow, unable to fully reveal whatever lies beyond it. Even 13.8 billion years, even that speed, are, set against the entire universe, nothing more than a small, almost negligible gesture. Quantum mechanics itself was the same, in the beginning. Its equations matched reality down to the finest decimal places, and yet even the people who created them never truly agreed on what it all meant. Einstein refused to accept it, famously saying, "God does not play dice." And for a time, the prevailing mood was simply, don't ask what it means, just calculate, and use it. Nearly 100 years later, this question still hasn't been settled. So, in the end, what truly matters isn't the electron itself. What matters is that we have made it this far holding on to its shadow, even without ever fully grasping its meaning. An old teaching tells us that being born, awakening, and departing this world are all merely expedient forms, that the real, true self was never born and never disappears at all. That it has always existed, from the very beginning, outside the bounds of time itself. Perhaps every shadow we have followed here, the knot, the focal points, the error that collapses into chaos, and even the electron that refuses to split, is nothing more than that same old sentence, drawn once again in the language of physics. We are beings bound to this space-time, beings who split, accumulate error, and will one day scatter apart. Like a seed, like a star, we too exist within that same cycle. And yet, even as beings who are scattering away, we keep trying, one step at a time, to learn what lies behind all these shadows. Perhaps this, a fading being like us reaching out to recognize something that never fades, is the most remarkable thing we, bound as we are within time, have ever been allowed to do.